guys, so today I got an Amazon box and I ordered a heater. Now, you guys may have seen the fact that I've been working on a diesel heater build. I still have some tweaks that I'm doing to that, but I got a different type of heater. And the reason why I did this is I plan on doing some boondocking. And having a great big huge giant diesel heater outside of the truck isn't really conducive to being stealthy per se. So what I did was I did a whole bunch of research and I ended up getting a Martin 3000 BTU catalytic heater. Now, it uses the exact same technology as the Mr. Heater buddy heaters, and I'm sure there's a ton of stuff online about the actual heaters. And this one specifically is a knockoff, not a knockoff, but a clone version of a Coleman heater. Coleman heaters have these brand of heaters that are Wildcat, I believe they're called, and there's a Sport Cat, and they're all catalytic heaters. Now, if you don't know what a catalytic heater is, do some research, but essentially it's a flameless heater, and it works on propane or natural gas, and it's flameless because what happens is that the fuel reacts with a plate, and the plate, which is made of platinum or other metals, basically has a chemical reaction and causes heat to occur, so there's actually no combustion. So this thing's bigger than I expected, but the advantage to that is that it doesn't emit carbon monoxide. In fact, on all the literature that I can read is that it emits none as long as it's functioning correctly. So it makes it suitable for me to be able to use it in the back of the truck. Now, that being said, I'm going to make sure that there's proper ventilation, and I'm going to ensure the fact that that it's safe ahead of time. Now, this is supposed to put out 3000 BTU, which is actually a lot. And when I was doing my research, comparing this to the buddy heaters, is that there's the little buddy heater, which is a small one that just goes on the top of a 1 pound propane tank. But there's a couple things I liked about it and a couple things I didn't like about it. One is the fact that it doesn't look particularly stable. They give you this little tiny base that goes on the 1 pound tanks, and it really looks like it would be like a tip over hazard inside a tent and or in the back of the truck. So I decided that after doing much research that I was going to go with the Martin brand. Now, in Canada, Martin isn't a particularly well-known name, but in the States, it's a well-known brand. So after reviews and everything like that, I decided to go with this one. Now, there's a couple differences between the Martin and the little buddy heater, and the little buddy heater has a oxygen sensor and a tip over shut off. Now, the Martin has a tip over shut off, but doesn't have an oxygen sensor. However, upon doing research, is that if it's low oxygen, this will shut off because it can't actually, the catalyst won't actually work. And so it's almost a redundancy to have the little buddy heater with the low oxygen shut off. because this is going to shut off if it's low oxygen, and the little buddy heater is going to shut off if it's low oxygen as well. So from what I've read on different forums and stuff like that, is that that low oxygen shut off is almost a, well, it is a redundancy, but it's almost perhaps a redundancy that's not necessary. But do your research, and if you're going to be using a catalytic heater inside a tent or inside the back of your truck or inside your car, make sure it's well ventilated. And like I said, do your research, and you'll find that catalytic heaters and stuff are particularly safe. They've been used in the RV industry for years and years and years. I can remember camping with my family when I was probably about 8 to 12 years old, and we had an old Coleman catalytic heater that my dad used to use in the camper, and we used that thing for years, and it was particularly safe. So okay, so we got this thing together. This one, for some reason, really didn't like to be threaded in. I had to thread it in a couple times, then back it out. But it's all good now. Anyway, so my initial thoughts is this thing looks like it's built really, really well. It's bigger than I expected it to be. As I was saying, one of the reasons why I went with the Martin is that the little buddy heater, the small one that goes on top of these canisters, it doesn't actually have a temperature control, and so it burns super hot. So you only get about 4 hours to 5 hours out of it, where this one on low will burn for about 7 to 7.5 hours. So that's why I went with this Martin one. And like I said, this is basically identical to the Coleman tent campers, the Black Cat and Wild Cat, I believe it is. But we don't see those in Canada a lot. In fact, I don't even know if you can still buy them online. But I don't know where they were discontinued or if they are discontinued. So we've got a warning here. So this is a warning about. It's a warning that is put out in Canada specifically, and it has to do with anything like the little buddy heaters in Canada have a warning on the box saying not for indoor use. However, the American versions of them, and same with the American version of this, the box says that it's an indoor-outdoor heater. But in Canada, due to safety codes and things like that, is that there has to be a warning about not using these indoors. However, if you go online, you can find hundreds and hundreds of videos and accolades and things like that about using these indoors. In fact, specifically using these indoors because they're safe. So basically, this is a level of redundancy that they have to put in on any type of propane heater indoors in Canada. But that being said, is do your research, learn about the technology, and specifically the catalytic heaters, because open flame propane heaters cause a ton of carbon monoxide and are extremely dangerous indoors. So make sure that you're not using a heater type that isn't a catalytic heater, and that is very, very important that it's a catalytic heater. So yeah, on the box here in Canada, it doesn't say for indoor use. It says that it's safe and efficient, but I imagine it's very similar to the fact that the buddy heaters here in Canada say not for indoor use. However, there's a ton of videos online saying that they're completely fine. And we have another disclaimer here too, again, for outdoor use. But do your research and you'll be able to see that, well, you'll probably come to the same conclusion that I did, that it's going to be particularly safe to be able to use indoors. But again, make sure that it's well ventilated, and read through the instruction and do your research. Okay, so this is typical stuff saying that keep this thing about 36 inches away from anything else. And I've read different things online about how far the radius of the heat will be off of this. So this is pretty simple. Just screw in the 1 pound tank. Okay. So I don't know if I said why I chose this one, but I chose this one because I like the setup. I like the way that this thing sits. It's way more stable than the little buddy heater. It does have a tip over shut off, and has an automatic start button here, and it's built really well. Now, the one thing to say about these catalytic heaters is that it's really important to keep the actual surface where the reaction occurs clean, like dust, because dust will apparently affect the performance of these. So what I plan on doing is I plan on actually getting a shower cap, and I'm going to put the shower cap over top of this when I'm not using it, just to keep the dust off. I should mention at this point, one other thing that I purchased was I did purchase a carbon monoxide alarm, battery operated. It's an extra layer of redundancy that I plan on using in the truck cap. And yeah, what I'm going to do is basically I'm going to change the batteries just about every single time I go out, just to ensure. It's probably a $4 or $5 thing to change the batteries, but particularly important extra layer of safety, especially in close places. And I will be obviously opening the back of the cap, well, the windows on the side of the cap, to ensure the fact that I've got good ventilation as well. So I'm going to do a little tiny test here this afternoon. It's about -10 outside right now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have this thing set up. I'm going to throw a thermostat out there. And check it out, they give you a battery. That never happens. And but I'm going to set this up outside in the back of the truck. And I'll put a thermostat out there, and I'm going to crack a window, and I'm going to run this thing for a bit. Now, this does use oxygen. It consumes oxygen obviously through its chemical reaction with the platinum plate and the fuel. Creates moisture, consumes oxygen. And the one thing you want to make sure, especially in smaller places, and I'm not recommending this per se, this is an experiment at this point, but everything that I've seen indicates that this is safe. But again, do your research, and we'll check this out. There we go. Okay. So that works. Okay. All right. Okay, so it's really hard to see, but the electronic igniter, it's basically like a barbecue style igniter, has a little tiny tip there, and it throws a little tiny spark against that platinum surface, that membrane where which is the catalyst to the actual fuel having the chemical reaction. Now, I don't know if you can hear that, but it does make a slight sound, but it's very, very quiet. And so high setting, low setting, and off. And you put it to the high setting to start it, and then once it starts, it actually is giving off a fair bit of heat. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but and that's just on the low setting. Turn it up to the high setting. Let's see if anything changes. Okay, so this thing is on full, and it is giving off a good amount of heat. I'm just going to leave this here. We're going to let this run for about 5 minutes, and then I'm going to come back and check on it, and we're going to see how hot it is. Now, something to note is that when I'm going to be using this in the back of my truck, is that I'm always going to have the carbon monoxide detector with me, and you want to put the carbon monoxide detector lower to the ground than higher. Like, you don't want to mount it on the roof or anything. And the reason for that is carbon monoxide is actually heavier than air. So if this thing ever produced any type of carbon monoxide, which I'm not expecting it to, but if it did, it would actually go to the bottom of the truck first, and then slowly start filling up. And because where I sleep and everything like that, I'm about 8 inches above the bottom, is that it would fall to the bottom first and then slowly start filling up the truck, which is a scary thought. But like I said, I don't expect this to produce any carbon monoxide. But we'll have the windows open, and I'll make sure that there's proper ventilation. So I'm going to let this thing run for about 5 minutes, and I'm going to come back and check on it. Okay guys, it's been about 3 minutes or so. This thing's giving off a fair amount of heat. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be. Yeah, it's really only giving off heat directly above it, in front of it a little tiny bit, and directly above. You can definitely feel it. Like it's a proper amount of heat, that's for sure. And that's on the high setting. I'm just going to put it to the low setting, and it still gives off a really good amount of heat. And I think it's going to work really well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean up here, and then I'm going to read through the safety and operation instructions. And what we'll do is we'll bring it out to the cap, the back of the truck, and we'll get it set up. And I'll bring out the carbon monoxide detector, and I'll bring out a thermometer, and we can test how efficient this thing is. And like I said, it's about minus 10 outside at the moment. So yeah, we'll see how well this thing works, and we'll make sure that it's safe to use. So I'm going to turn this off, and we'll get set up in the truck. Okay guys, we got everything set up. Got the heater on. It's running on high right now. I have my carbon monoxide detector, and I'm going to put that basically exactly right here where I will be sleeping. And got a thermometer, so we're going to see how well this thing heats up the back of this truck. I've got the windows open. They're cracked open, so there's going to be some good airflow in here. And it's right now it's about -9. So I'm going to leave this for about a half hour, and then I'm going to come back out and check it out. Okay guys, it's been about a half hour, and everything seems good. Carbon monoxide detector hasn't gone off. We're up by about 15 degrees from when we started, and the heater doesn't smell. It doesn't. The only thing coming off this heater is a little tiny bit of a sound, and that's because of the reaction with the catalytic surface and the flow of the gas. There is a little bit of condensation on the windows, which is to be expected, but yeah, everything seems like it's really good. I'm going to leave the carbon monoxide detector directly below it. That's about as close as I can get it to it. And as I said, I do not expect this carbon monoxide detector to detect anything whatsoever, and that's because of the technology of these catalytic heaters. They're pretty bulletproof, and those disclaimers that you see here in Canada, it's all because of safety code and stuff like that. But these things should be very, 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 very safe. Again, do your research if you're going to be using these heaters in a tent or in an enclosed space, and make sure that it's a catalytic heater, because any open flame type of heater and stuff like that does create a large amount of carbon monoxide. From all my research is that these don't create any, but they do create moisture, which we're seeing on the windows, and they do consume oxygen, so you need a good airflow in the spaces that you're going to use these. And I don't know whether or not I would actually sleep with this on. I think it would be 100% fine. But that being said, is that I'd be worried about my sleeping bag hitting the surface, because this does get very, very hot. And yeah, so we're going to come back in about another half hour, and we'll check it out. Okay, so it's been about an hour, and most of the condensation has actually dissipated. There's still a little bit, but it's as I expected that it was going to basically disappear once everything warms up in here. So carbon monoxide detector is still doing its thing. Nothing's gone wrong, and we're well, that cold air that I just let in maybe adjusted this, but we're still at about 15 degrees, maybe a little tiny bit higher than that. But I think I'm going to chill out in here for a little tiny bit, and we'll see how much this thing goes up now that I've closed that door. Okay guys, I've been hanging out in the back here now for another half hour. I've had the door closed. The back windows are open here. There's a little bit of a breeze coming through, so this side of the truck is a little bit cooler than this side of the truck. So we're up to about 24 degrees in here now. And so with that 24 and it being -9 outside, that's going to be a difference of 33 degrees. And that's Celsius. So that's a pretty significant difference. I can definitely feel drafts coming in from the back door here, because it's not sealed all the way around correctly, and it's definitely drafty on this side. And with the windows open, this side of the truck is a little bit cooler than this side of the truck. I am noticing some more condensation, and that's probably because I'm in here as well. So I'm adding some heat and some moisture to the environment. If I was to camp out like this with the windows exposed, I'd probably have a little bit of a rag or something to wipe the windows down. But I suspect that the warmer it gets in here, the less moisture problems we're going to have. There's nothing on this window at all, just a little bit in this corner where the heater is. I will be getting window coverings made up here shortly. I'll make a video on that and how I'm going to do it. And I'm going to use batten insulation, and that batten insulation will hopefully protect against the windows and stuff like that. I'll obviously need to have it open at the back to get airflow in here, but so far so good. So I'm just going to set this thing on low, and I'm going to let it run for a couple hours out here without me, and then I'm going to come back out and I'll check it out when I get back out. Okay guys, see you in a sec. Okay guys, it's been about 4.5 hours, and everything in here is going really good. It's really, really nice in here. Temperature wise, we're up to about 23 Celsius, which is I think it is 66 Fahrenheit, which is really quite nice. It's only about -5 outside right now, but this has been set on low this entire time, and obviously nothing's going on with the carbon monoxide detector, so this thing's burning really, really clean. There is some humidity, some moisture, right, on the inside, but it's a lot better than what it was when we first started, and I think that's because everything sort of got up to temperature and it's not causing as much condensation anymore against the cold surfaces. But I think this is going to be a pretty good setup. I can see this actually functioning even better once I get the window coverings on. Those are going to have a quilted interior, which will help keep some of the heat in. And yeah, I think for boondocking and for getting out there, even for just going out for a quick overnight camp or a hike, is that this thing is going to come in handy. Those 1 pound tanks weigh next to nothing, and it's a little larger than what I thought, but you know what, it's going to work perfect for what I need it for. So do your research on these guys, and make sure that that you understand the technology, you understand what you can and can't do with these heaters, and always keep the area well ventilated. I've got 1.5 inches open on both sides, and plus on top of it, I haven't sealed the cap with anything to the box, and the back door isn't sealed very well, so there's plenty of air coming in. But yeah, do your research, guys, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.